Right, so I'm working on a commission for some curved curtain poles for an oast house for a client, and I typically make videos for general interest, but also to show the client how the items are made. So here's my ring roller, and this is what I'm using for forming the hollow tube curtain poles, which are going to have finials screwing into the ends. And on this ring roller, it's a kind of multifunctional one, which is quite useful. I won't go into too much detail about it, but these dies can switch round. So according to what kind of bar or tube you're rolling, so this switch round to this way, it's concave like this, so it can maintain the tube profile. It won't crush it, so you know the roundness is maintained. Right, so when I went to the client's house, I took my roller with me and rolled flat bar, and then each oast roundel was different in curvature, so progressively, took 3 hours. There was 7 windows, so curved these bars and then drew around them once they were to the right curve, and then so these are these 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 lines because luckily some of the windows were of the same curvature, and these little fences here that I've screwed on are so that I can just push this up. So I'm not trying to, I'm not, if I was seeing if it offered up against that one, I'm not like looking down it trying to see if I can see the line. If those fences are up against there, I can just push that up and see, well, no, it's short there, so it needs to curve some more. Now this long one here was actually going to be for that first one, the longest one over there, and I was kind of just using this one as a dummy run. I bought one extra pole, one extra than was required as a way to test the method to make sure I was going to be doing it right, but it's actually working fine. And what I've done is I've over curved this because there's also some straight ones, so basically this is now looking like it's going to marry up with this one here, and for this curve there's actually 3 of that curve. So to cut a long story short, basically I can get 2 out of this bar, out of this pole, whereas if I was to do that out of that biggest one, what I should have done is cut the pole shorter, and then only rolled part of it, and then that would have left me with enough for one of the straight curtain poles. But as I said, this was just actually intended to be a sort of dummy run, like tester one, but it's working fine. And the reason I sort of make the point about having a dummy run is because as it rolls through, there's unlike flat bar, which flat bar will always sort of keep straight, because it's round, it can easily sort of fall away because there's nothing, it's rolling through like that, and as it goes through it can easily fall away like that. So you can effectively end up with like compound bends, like a bend that way but also whoop like that. But what my sort of solution for that was clamping mole grips, vice locks or whatever they're called, on the ends, so as they roll through that and they stay vertical, I can continually check that they're staying vertical, because if they start to go, with no frame of reference on a round bar, it's round, it's not like flat bar, you can't say, oh, that's that's the flat is now turned. With round bar it's a continuously round profile. Anyway, so I'll pause there and start doing a bit, and then you get more of a gist of what I'm on about. So this one I'm working on at the minute needs to be curved a little more so it will marry up with the drawing. I'll feed that through. And it gets to a stage with this where you have to be ultra careful and do really, really small increments. Right, so I'm going to do that. Right. Yeah, so I can see that at the minute the vice locking pliers is vertical. So I'm going to go this way. Okay, so now I'm going to count how many times it takes to undo this. I'm going to offer this up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10. Because what I don't want to do when I turn, if I'm going to offer this up to the drawing now, and if I turn that back, when I bring it back, I don't want to over crush it. So that wasn't enough. Got to do it a bit more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'll go quarter. No, I'll do eighth, because I'm not far off now. Right, so I skipped out a few, repetitions of going back of here and there because you just been bored as hell. So here's my line and here's my stoppers up against it. So because this produces a continuously even curve, I could push any part of it up against this. So now I'll push that up and it's hitting my fences, my stoppers at each point, so that tells me that it's all good, and I can move that along and reliably know that it's a good even curve. The only parts that don't roll are the very ends, because from that point there to that point there, there's nothing, so the ends, this roll is quite good because I can move them to there as well, and that produces a shorter distance that won't roll. But because this is quite a large span, these are quite large curves, gentle curves, I thought it best to put the rollers out further and sacrifice just an extra little bit at the ends. But having bought steels that are long enough to do at least 2 poles per like bar of steel or tube of steel, sacrificing that much shouldn't matter.